And I'll kind of give a little bit of an introduction on this. So I'm RevOps at a small startup based in Chicago. I've been doing it for a little while now, and there are some certain processes that I found myself just doing over and over again. And I was able to utilize ChatGPT to somewhat automate a lot of those processes and really kind of close the gaps. I'm pretty good with like Excel and Google Sheets. I know a little bit of Python coding. SQL was something that I'm comfortable enough with to kind of figure it out. But I'll say using ChatGPT, I was able to really enhance those skill sets, make me look much more capable than I am without that tool to enhance my abilities. It was something, Adam and I have been talking for a little bit, and I had shared just some of the things that I was doing. He's like, "Hey, can you show me what you're doing with that? I'd love to learn." And I just showed him essentially what I'm going to show you all today. And he really took off. And I mean, you came back, not more than 2 weeks later, like, "Hey, I feel like a RevOps god now." So, and I thought, well, heck, man, if it helped Adam, I'm sure it would help some other folks. So that's kind of the premise of this class and how it all started. Adam, since you've kind of gone through this class, with me just in one-on-one, what are some things that you were able to do utilizing some of the things we'll show today?
Yeah, so I had been struggling, as a lot of RevOps folks do. I've really perfected the process of exporting data from disparate data pools and then manually manipulating them in spreadsheets in order to import them into, in this case, HubSpot. You have to reformat everything and get it into the all the different processes. There was one export process that I went through that would take me about 3 or 4 hours a week to do. And I was basically jaded by it. I would try to get interns and train them, but you can't. I couldn't just allow that to happen. I had to always go back and check it to make sure that it was accurate before I imported it, because I didn't want to mess my database up. So that was one of the big processes that your method helped me resolve. That process that took 3 to 4 hours, I can now do in like 30 seconds. And so rather than doing it once a week, I can do it once a month, and it takes less than 15 minutes. That's one method, just a database cleanup. And then the other one was more advanced, because you really did get my gears turning, Emerson. We have a database full of disparate job titles, and a job title is one of the properties that we use to identify who should be fed to our BDR team. And in our industry, it's completely disparate. Everybody will put in their own job title, and there's no normalcy. So I was able to take the entire database of job titles and then feed it in through, use ChatGPT to develop a Python script that allowed me to feed it in through a fuzzy logic model, and then use neural language processors to kind of normalize my job title information and then feed it back into HubSpot. So I was able to suss out almost 40% more accurate job titles and make my job that much easier.
Awesome. Yeah, that's so cool to see where you took that, because the lessons that we'll be showing today and what I showed you were really just some basic stuff. And then it's really about, your creativity at that point and what you can really do with something. I want to show a couple of projects that I had worked on that really saved me just a ton of time. So one of the things that I did is we have 3 disparate data systems, right? We have our CRM, and then we have our proprietary customer portal, and then we have our financial software. And for the most part, none of those systems talk well with each other. And so I went through and was able to use ChatGPT to create this notebook, essentially, to link all of those records in mass to a very high degree of accuracy. Now, this looks complicated. And if I were to do this, if I were to write this code by hand with my own understanding of Python, I would have never been able to do it. So ChatGPT was able to get me here. We're not going to do anything that complex today. We're going to focus more on just maybe, so there's two projects that I kind of wanted to show you how to do. One of those is importing data into CRM. It's something all RevOps folks have to do on a regular basis. So I've got a a messy contacts import here, which we're going to run through the process of cleaning it up and then getting it ready for import. And then the other thing I want to show is just processing, so creating a dashboard for like a sales team leader, right? So I have this dashboard. This is a dummy information, but I created a dashboard for our sales team to be able to see, how are our call conversions on up through deal conversions, all of our deal stages, our win rates, all of that stuff, right? And then individual scorecards for each rep. And again, this is all dummy information, but so I was able to build something like this. We're not going to do something this complex today, but we will build a small little dynamic individual stat card and team stat card based on our data pool. Hopefully with this, after we get through with this today, you'll all be able to kind of think about how can I use this to reach my goals in RevOps or any other reason that you're here. So I'm going to jump into it. There are a couple of tools that I recommend. First of all, ChatGPT. The big thing you'll want, it's worth investing that $20 into getting ChatGPT Plus. Adam, I'm just going to keep you unmuted there if you don't mind, just so you can pop in and let me know if anybody in chat has any questions. ChatGPT Plus will allow you, specifically the code interpreter, though they've recently changed the name to the advanced data analysis. That's where you're going to really get some good, clean code to be able to use. The other tool that I use is Jupyter Notebooks. So Jupyter Notebooks allow you to create reusable code. So as you create this code, let's say we create an import process using Python to clean our data, you'll be able to bring in new import files into this process and just run the code. You won't have to recreate it every single time. And that's part of that automation process. You may need to tweak some things here and there depending on your column headers and whatnot. We're going to start there. So Jupyter Notebooks. I use a program called Anaconda. So you can download Anaconda; it's free, and then you would use Jupyter Lab from within that program, and all of that is free. The only thing that costs money is ChatGPT Plus, which I again highly recommend. One thing I don't recommend, and something that I don't do, I don't use ChatGPT to put my proprietary data into the program. I mean, it's not a secure platform. That's why I do things this way. I never put any private sensitive data into ChatGPT itself. But this allows me to kind of do everything that ChatGPT would do if I were to upload my data in there for data analysis. So this is just a better way to do it. And again, Adam, before we jump in here, if you do see any questions that pop up, feel free to just interrupt me. Cool. All right, so once you get Anaconda installed and Jupyter Notebooks up and running, you really, the main things here, you would drop files into this left-hand panel, and that would allow Jupyter Notebooks to access those files. So you can see here I have a messy contacts CSV, that's my import file. I do have a sales deal information, which is just a table of sales data that would be like an export from a CRM. And then I also have my actual Jupyter Notebooks. So let's start with the import data cleaning process. And I'm going to go over to ChatGPT. There. And again, with ChatGPT 4 Plus, you want to make sure that advanced data analysis plugin is active. And then from there, I've got some. The first thing I do with ChatGPT is I give it a persona, right? I don't know if any of you have seen this before. It's a pretty common practice nowadays. I've copied one. So I'm telling ChatGPT to act as a tenured data scientist who specializes in analyzing business data. Essentially what I'm doing is I'm saying, instead of really giving ChatGPT one narrow area to focus on, that's going to make my responses so much more accurate. And then I give it some instructions. So whenever I ask for code, I want the code snippets that I can directly copy and paste in my Jupyter Notebook, preferably in one code block if possible. I don't want to copy a bunch and paste a bunch. I just want it to give it to me all in one code block. And then I send the prompt over to ChatGPT. All right. So now that I've prepped that, I remember that file that I have, that import file, is messy contacts CSV. So what I want to do with is I want to explain to ChatGPT exactly what I am using. So I have a CSV file called messy contact CSV to import into my CRM. But before I do, I want to clean and standardize the data. Please spell out everything that is abbreviated in the company column. Here's a sample of that data. And then what I do is I go back and then I can copy just maybe a few lines of this to allow ChatGPT to understand exactly what it's working with. And then it's going to provide recommendations and some code snippets that I can paste to clean the data. Well, there it is. So one of the, I don't know if anybody, you all have heard of pandas before, but pandas is a Python library that's great for working with data. It's the main library that you would use. If you want to use ChatGPT to actually learn Python, I mean, this is a good way to do it. I will say, instead of just copying this code and pasting it into Jupyter Notebooks, if you really want to learn, type all of this stuff out into Jupyter Notebooks and take the time. You'll start to understand how Python works just naturally. I'm not going to do that today. I'm just going to copy the code over for the sake of time here. So I'm going to paste my code right into the code line here. And then when I'm ready to run it, I hit this little play button and it's going to run the code for me. So one thing that's interesting, and you know, sometimes you'll see these errors. The great thing to do is you can just copy this error and paste it right back into ChatGPT, and it'll tell you exactly what happened, and then it will fix the code for you. This, I'm not going to do a lot of this. I have some pre-prepared code that I've got from going through this process already, just to keep things speeding along. But running into those errors, and Adam, you can probably attest to this, running into those errors is something that happens a lot. So you really need to go back and forth between running your code in Jupyter Notebook and coming back to ChatGPT and saying, hey, I ran into an error, fix this for me. Okay, so it asks me here, it says, hey, here's what there's an oversight, here's how to fix that. Do you want the updated code snippet? And I'm going to say, yes, I do want that updated code snippet.
Emerson, while this is processing, can you drop that initial prompt into the chat for everyone?
Oh yeah, great idea. Yeah. Let's see, there we go. Sorry, I sent it directly to you, Adam. There it is. So one thing, ChatGPT will sometimes run code in the background and it won't actually give you the code snippet. You can click this drop down and then you can copy the code from there. I do sometimes, as I'm doing this, I just tell ChatGPT, hey, from now on, just show me the code snippet, don't run the code, and it will listen to you. All right, so
Emerson, I found that on the customization prompt, where you can ask it how you'd like to be communicated with, you can just put that in as your default. And it'll just constantly show you the full code snippet.
Yeah. And so what he's pointing to is there is some custom instructions in here that you can tell ChatGPT exactly how you want it to interact with you, which is great if you're really just using it for like code. You can also do that at just the beginning of you can specify that in that like persona prompt that I shared with everyone. You can specify that for each and every chat. Okay, so it gave me some corrected code here. Let's see here. I'll copy the code, paste it over. Might need to do it down here. Okay, cool. So now it's pandas will load data frames, so it's not actually updating that messy contact CSV file. The last thing that I need to do is say, hey, you've standardized everything. Now please write it to messy contact CSV. So I will just go straight back to ChatGPT and say, please save this to messy contacts.csv. And then it will give me some code that I'll put back into Jupyter Notebook, and then I'll be able to save to that CSV file, and then it's ready for import. And again, that, you know, the power of this is once you figured out code that works, you can just keep running new imports through the process. So if that's something that you have to do quite often, then this will save you a lot of time. I got an error, which is okay. I'm not going to worry about that right now. I just want to show, so you can see this messy context, right? So the phone number field is kind of all over the place. The company, you know, company names, they weren't capitalized, anything like that, right? So ChatGPT did go through, standardized the phone numbers for import, made sure that all of the company names were all spelled out. I do notice an error there, but one of the things that we work with, like fire departments, right? And so we might have Seattle Fire Volunteer Fire Department, or we might see Seattle Vol Fire DEPT. All right, so those abbreviations can sometimes create duplicates when we import. I can use ChatGPT to say, hey, spell everything out. Just keep everything to the specific standards that I specify. So I'm not going to finish up this process, but normally what I would do is I would, anytime that I run into an error, I will have ChatGPT fix that error, and I will replace the code that's here. And then I will make sure that my output files look something more like this, right? So I've got a header up here that says this is step 1. The code's nice and clean. I've probably, you know, this code right here, and maybe I had to do 3 or 4 times because there was errors that popped up. But once I got one that worked, I saved that one and moved on to the next. And I do like, you know, I'll put descriptions in here as well to kind of explain what's going on, so that the next time I come to this notebook, I don't have to, like, if I just look at all this code, I'm going to be lost. So I just provide myself a little bit of a roadmap to use this next time. Cool. So that's that. So my messy contact's now ready for import. Now I want to turn over to the other project, which was creating something like this, right? So this is a simplified version of a dashboard. How would you create something like this? The reason I want to, I'm using Google Sheets for this. You know, I could do this in Excel. I realized though that as we run out of time here, Google Sheets is interesting because it has a query function, and the query is pretty similar to a SQL query. So if you learn this process, it's kind of 2 birds with 1 stone. So you're going to understand how to use ChatGPT to help build good formulas in Excel to allow you to do what you want. And it's also going to teach you how to use ChatGPT to build SQL queries as well. So let's hop into that. So I've done some pre-work here. So in my Google Sheet, I have my sales deal information. And this is some dummy records here. I do want to say I usually use Coefficient to pull my data from our CRM. And again, this is dummy data here, but I wanted to show you. Coefficient's a really powerful tool, pulls all my data from the CRM into a raw data table. And that's where I can then build my queries from, right? So this would be like my raw data here. I did do some drop downs, and this is what these are my drop downs for sorry, here we go. So I can choose which rep information I want to display. And then I built that here just to kind of speed up the process. All right, so I'm going to go back to ChatGPT, and I've already prepared, I'm going to use that same chat because I already prepared that persona prompt. Everything is still good there. The one thing that I'm going to do is, and you're going to do this with both Google Sheets, Excel, or SQL, is I'm going to tell ChatGPT, hey, I'm in Google Sheets or SQL or whatever. I have a table called sales deal information, and it contains the following columns. So I've got rep first name, deal name, ARR, blah, 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 whatever. And that just loads that information essentially into ChatGPT to reference. It's going to give me some information, kind of a summary of what it sees. It's probably going to, sometimes ChatGPT will start trying to solve problems that you didn't ask. I just kind of ignore it. I'll hit stop generating there so it doesn't waste its time. And then the next stage, after you've loaded that data into ChatGPT, that's when you can send your prompt. So in my sales dashboard, and this is this specific sheet in Google Sheets, I want to query the data from the sales deal information tab and return the number of deals created, the average closed won deal size, the win rate, and the average days to close for all closed won and closed lost deals for the rep found in cell B2. So all of those things, if you're not, into sales ops or RevOps, those are all, very basic, standard, important stats for a sales rep. So let's see what ChatGPT kicks out for us. So I'm noticing one thing already is ChatGPT is breaking this down for each section. I do want it all in one code snippet, and because I prompted it earlier on, I want to see if at the end it says, okay, we've given each piece, now here's the whole. Because I don't want to have to just paste each and every one of these into a different cell. So while this is loading up, some practices that I like to take, you'll notice over here, these are all my chats, right? So I have like my Python coach. I like to name these chats. So I might call this one ChatGPT class assistant, something like that. Something that I can easily recognize it as I look through over on my left, because I'll revisit these chats quite often. I have my RevOps CRO mentor there. I tend to use it to ask all sorts of questions on advancing my career. Okay, so I am seeing that I did not get the one block of code, so I'm just going to say, please write this in one block of code. And I always like to say please to ChatGPT, because you don't know what sort of overlords they'll be here in a couple of years. So I am noticing that this is kicking out information that's not going to be pastable into a sheet. So what I would do here is I would say, hey, I realized that you did this in a way that I didn't intend. And then I would be more specific and I would clarify. I have already gone through that process. I'm not going to take that time to do that here. But imagine I ran through that process and I've got this code block that looks like this. So anybody who's familiar with SQL queries will notice that this is a query where you're selecting, and what this would look like in SQL is something more like this. But this is essentially a SQL query. I mean, you can do it exactly the same way. All right, so there's my query. I'm noticed that some of these things are in the wrong format, right? Your win rate is going to be percentage, so I'm just going to change that to your percentage. Average deal size, that is going to be a dollar amount. Average days to close is good, and then deals created. So from this data, I could see the sales velocity for this particular rep, which tells me a lot about their quality as a sales rep. Let me see, how's Alice Smith? Okay. Looks like she takes a little longer to close deals. Let's check out Bob Johnston. Now, this is all great information, right? But the one thing that you don't get is, well, how is each individual rep doing compared to the rest of the team? I'd love to see the full team stats and what their sales velocity is. So again, you can go back to ChatGPT and oops, I'm going to copy my so in my sales dashboard, basically I say the exact same thing, but instead of specifying that I want it for where the rep is the same rep that's in cell B2, I'm just going to say, give me all the data. Hanson, I am noticing you ask it, do I check the math? I did check the math. So the thing about ChatGPT, and this was something I shared with Mark. He was asking, like, how do you trust that this is accurate data? The thing is you do have to have a certain degree of data intelligence to be able to use this tool to understand what you want it to do and what the output should be. If you don't, like, if I ask ChatGPT for what's my sales cycle length, it's going to take all of the dates that were from create date to close date and give me an average of how long it took to close those deals. The thing is I know that that's not accurate, because your sales cycle length is all your closed won and closed lost deals. You don't want to see the deals that are still in the deal pipeline. So you have to have a certain degree of data intelligence to understand how to phrase things and how to double check to make sure that things are accurate. But that's kind of the power of this tool, is if you have that, and if I were hiring someone, I wouldn't care as much what their skill is with Excel or Power BI or SQL or any of that. I'd be more interested in, like, what is your data intelligence? Like, how do you solve puzzles? And then when you have these tools to solve the puzzles, then you're off to the races. One of the quote, yeah, garbage in, garbage out. The quote that I used with Mark was, you don't get a fancy sewing machine and know how to sew an Italian suit. Like, you need to know how to do that first, and then the sewing machine is going to help you get there quicker. Okay, so here's my code for the team stats. Let's copy it over and see what we get. So I'm noticing a couple things here, like win rate is 0%, and then there's an extra percent in there. So what I'm actually going to do is copy the results here and paste that right back in ChatGPT and explain win rate is at 0%. That is not right. And let's see what it says. So I've got just a couple of minutes here. This is going to kick out a formula. I would say probably a 30% chance of this working. I probably need to go through this process a couple more times, or realistically, once you get it to this state, you can usually kind of look at the formula and tell what's going on, and fix it from there. I do have a completed code copy already, so I'll copy that in there and show you what that looks like. Okay, and then again, your average deal size is going to be a dollar amount. Your win rate is going to be a percentage. And so now you have this dashboard, which essentially tells you, so I can look at Bob Johnson and say, he's created 20 of the 100 deals that were created. His average deal size is a little bit smaller. His win rate's about average, but he closes deals a bit quicker. I might actually try to say, hey, Bob, what are you doing? Like, how can you help the rest of the team? And you can look at that for everyone. And then you can make it look, a little fancier, make it more presentable. You could build graphs based on all of this. There's quite a bit you can do, but this is really just a taste to help give an idea of what's possible. And then really you're really just then limited by what you can imagine and what's useful. I got it all in 30 minutes.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm going to stick around for, I'd love to hear some feedback. So I'm part of Rev Genius. If you're in the RevOps channel, I'm a channel manager there. You can usually find me on LinkedIn, but let me know what you want to learn, because I'd love to be able to share this knowledge. And honestly, if you're like, hey, can you do this? And then I find out that you can, like, I'll probably steal your idea and use it for my own business. So yeah, but please, yeah, I see some more questions coming in. For those not familiar, can you explain the click paths and how to think about it in workflow? So Dave, I'll stick around for a little bit longer if you want to stick around and just kind of answer some of those questions. If anybody else wants to drop off, that's okay. I really only planned a half an hour for this class. But yeah, we can talk about workflows, and I think that's an important piece. Cool. Take care, everyone. Thanks a lot. Appreciate you being here.
Emerson, there was a question about sending out a recording of this session as well as the transcript if possible.
Yeah, I'll put the recording up on YouTube and then share it out with at least Rev Genius, and I think if for those registered through Eventbrite, I think I can send it out there as well. Yeah, so Josh, the things that you get with ChatGPT Plus, so for one, you get that code interpreter. It's also a more advanced model that is trained on more data. You also get access to plugins. So these plugins are pretty cool. You can do a lot of really cool things. There's Resume Genie, which will help you build a resume that will get around all the ATS garbage. You can build slides. There's honestly hundreds of plugins that are useful. You can train AI on a PDF and ask it questions about that PDF. A lot of really cool stuff in there. I think it's very much worth it. Yeah, Mark, I'm with you there. I definitely, the ROI that I've got out of that $20 is absolutely nuts. Cool. Let's see who else we have in here. Looks like we've got 10 folks. I can probably, yeah, I'll let everybody unmute, and then we can just have like a quick roundtable, and I can get into some questions. So you should be able to unmute yourself, and you can even start your video if you wanted to kind of stick around. Adam, are you able to stick around for a little bit?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so anybody's welcome to come off mute, and we can talk about it, and I can show you whatever you want to see.
Hey, Emerson, Dave M here, and thanks. This was great and very timely, as I started my ChatGPT journey more earnestly over, say, the last month.
Okay.
And never really not deep on the exact tool sets, right? Like have used JetBrains, other environments for sort of query, SQL, things like that. So I'm just not familiar with this Anaconda, etc. Even the fuzzy logic, though, I looked that up and said, oh shoot, I should have had that on my radar earlier. That could be a whole separate probably thing just on how to map that, because yeah, that use case is absolutely one that, if it can get reduced, it's it's a never-ending flow, right, of integrating additional data sets.
I was muted there. The workflow is not too complicated. So if you just go to, I don't know, just Google Anaconda Navigator and download that, and then this will bring you right here. And then you can just launch Jupyter Lab straight from there, right? And then this will bring you to this environment. And if you have some specific questions, let me know. But over on your left panel is where you're going to drop your files. And then on the main panel is where you're going to put all your code in. And so like I used fuzzy logic for this admin, the CRM to our proprietary data pool to our financial software, because we'll have things like the names. You might have a Jim and you might have a James that are the same people. You might have somebody in a misspelled city, or the telephone numbers are different. The street addresses, one's boulevard, one. And so, you really need a way, essentially what you're looking at, what I'm showing you here, was using Fuzzy Wuzzy is the name of the library, or the record linkage toolkit. And those are built-in libraries. The cool thing about all this is you don't need to know any of that stuff, because ChatGPT will tell you what libraries. So this, where it says import pandas, right? That's importing that library. If you need another library, you can see down here, import record linkage from Fuzzy Wuzzy, import fuzz. It's doing all that for you. You don't even need to know that those things exist. You just need to trust that ChatGPT is going to get you the right tool to allow you to get where you are. And so I'm not going to go too in depth into like what it was able to do, but I was able to use this to do a weighted logic, right? So you can kind of see, you can see the context would be like the contact name, and the threshold for accuracy was 75%. Same with like email thresholds is higher, maybe there's some misspellings there or whatever. And then I have different weights for those fields, right? So if the email address is a close match, that score is way higher. So as I compare records, I get an output of like this score that says this is an 8. Like, that record's a match. And you can pretty much, I looked through it and I was like, I can trust everything from like 4.5 on 8. And so I'm said that those are matches. And then I kind of go through and reiterate on that process. But all that's done, like once you get to this stage where you download Anaconda and use Jupyter Notebook and ChatGPT Plus, then it's just like, you got to think about like, well, how do I get to what I want? And then just tell ChatGPT that's what you want.
Yeah. Have you started using this in a broader sort of data environment with, you know, your Snowflake and your Fivetran and, you know, dropping really okay.
No,
Got it.
we're a small company, and so my actual use case, it has been minimal. But I mean, I think as long as you can extract the data, manipulate the data, import the data, and make the changes, like this should scale. But I'm sure there's areas where, you'd have to think about how to do it.
Awesome. Thanks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Any other questions from anyone?
Hey, nice to meet you. Wayne Kelly here. I just joined RevGenius yesterday, actually.
Welcome.
Saw this come through. I'm a revenue operations strategist at an agency called New Breed. I work with
Yeah.
HubSpot
Yeah.
mostly, Salesforce too. But I'm wondering, have you had any experience like generating custom workflow actions, custom coded workflow actions, or anything like that you could use inside of HubSpot through their Ops Hub? I've tried a couple of different times because it uses Node or Python as the language, but I haven't really been able to like prompt it correctly to get something that's easily usable. So maybe my prompts are wrong, or maybe I'm asking it the wrong way. I was just curious if you had any advice on that.
I wonder if Adam, have you tried? I figured you did.
Yes. Hey, Wayne, big fan of New Breed.
Yeah.
Hired you guys in a previous life. So, but
Awesome.
yes, I actually recently did this because this whole new world has been opened up to me to go to ChatGPT and ask it to write code. And there is a nuance to it. It mainly has to do, I do recommend having the API documentation from HubSpot open.
Yeah.
Because the last time that ChatGPT was updated was in September of 2021.
Right.
And HubSpot is so iterative, and they're constantly updating their API documentation. What I found in order to make it function as a custom code module was I had to give it snippets from the API documentation and then ask it the question.
Okay, that makes more sense. That's probably the piece I was missing. It's like I always forget that it's like 2 years behind.
Yep.
Whatever we're doing currently. So that makes more sense. I'll certainly try that and give it a go. And I guess I'll follow up to that is like, what kind of interesting custom workflow actions or even custom calls and things like that have you done via HubSpot and JSON and Python and Node and all that kind of stuff that you would think would be really cool to talk about?
Yeah. So my most recent use case was I was taking inputs from a form. There was a support ticket form, and I wanted to be able to modify the ticket name within HubSpot based on the product that somebody submitted a ticket for, the category, and the subcategory, so that it was searchable and normalized. And that was what I was able to do. I was able to tell it the 3 properties that I wanted to reference, and then give it a, for the products, we have a short code for them, a SKU, and then build me a title, and then copy that string over the ticket name. That was one thing that I did with it. Also, am able to use it to automatically associate a specific contact to the ticket itself, which is a little bit more advanced. I banged my head on the wall with that one a little more, but we wanted to associate a particular ticket. a particular contact, so that we could then CC it when we send out automated emails. That way we can create a ticket record inside of our project management software. But the sky really is the limit.
That's super cool. Yeah, we have like a development team too, and they're always trying to think of cool tools that would help our RevOps team. And one of them that they're working on right now is a custom workflow action that will auto-associate the association labels inside of HubSpot, which is like a big thing because it's a manual thing right now, but it's like so useful to have that information. So they're trying to work on that, and I'm like, maybe we could just leverage some ChatGPT. We have a GPT guy on the RevOps team that's all about the AI and all that kind of stuff. So I might pull him in and ask him to hook us up with that. And then
is awesome, Wayne. Yeah, if you guys can figure out the labeling, because I can make the associations, but they haven't fully released